This is a BYD Sealion 7, and I think it's better than the Tesla Model Y in so many different ways, except for two key areas. This starts from £47,000, which is £2,000 more than the starting price for the Tesla Model Y. That's quite a ballsy move from BYD, but if you bear with me, I'll show you why I think it's worth it. So for starters, let's talk about the design. I think this has much more character than the Tesla Model Y.
At the front, it's sporting these teardrop-shaped headlights and sculpted low-slung bonnet to help with aerodynamics, as well as make it stand out from the crowd.
And then down here, a vent, and it's actually real. And then at the side, you've got these massive 20-inch alloy wheels with those red brake calipers in there, and it sort of just ties the design together quite nicely. Now the first thing you're going to notice along the side of the car is this chunky boxy cladding. It's quite squared off, looks a little bit awkward, like it's trying to be a Lamborghini Urus sort of thing. It doesn't really work with this lighter paint. I think if you go for a darker paint, it's going to look a lot cooler. And you've got these flush door handles, they go in, not at the moment because it's unlocked, but when you're driving, sort of increases fuel efficiency. And then it's got quite a sloping roof line, which tends to eat into headspace quite a lot, especially with a big sunroof that this car has. We're going to test that later, especially people at my height. I do tend to struggle in the back of cars like this. And then down here, you'll notice it's got Michelin Pilot Sport 4 tyres. Now this is quite rare for an EV. They've normally got EV specific tyres. This has grippier tyres, and we'll see how that affects range when we get to the driving. Now following on from the sloping roof line, you've got this big chunky spoiler here, and the second one here. There's no rear wiper, but for aero reasons, it just works quite nicely for the air just to flow down there. And then these tail lights are some of my favorites. They're like a little water droplet, and they've got mini water droplets in there. Just looks really cool, especially when you're braking or at night. And then you've got the badge here, the BYD badge. There's another BYD badge here as well. So there's two, just in case you forget. And then Sealion 7. You're probably wondering where the other 6 are. I don't know. And then down here is the 4.5S. That's not a model trim or a spec. That is actually the 0 to 60 mile an hour time. Now straight off the bat, when you get in the car, you need to look at the interior quality. I think it's really nice in here. Everything feels really firm and soft, and it's really well laid out. It's not as minimalist as the Tesla, which can be a little bit bland if I'm honest. There's a lot going on in here, and I think this is where that extra £2,000 might be worth it. So for starters, let's talk about this screen. So in front of you is a 15.6 inch display. That's already bigger than the one you get in the Model Y, and it's incredibly crisp. It's really easy to use. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, something the Tesla doesn't have. Overall, it's really nice, really smooth to use, really easy, and it rotates as well. Although you can't use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto in that mode, so if you want that, you need to put it back into landscape mode. Below that, you've got physical vents, obviously, but you can move them manually. You don't have to fiddle around in a screen. I like that. Tesla needs to take note. And then below that, you've got a 50-watt wireless phone charger. It's absolutely rapid, and it's vented, so it cools your phone as it's charging, so it doesn't overheat or just get too hot. And then you've got physical controls here, gear selector, so drive, neutral, reverse. Again, something you don't get in the Tesla. That you have to fiddle around in the screen. I find that really irritating. And while we're talking about physical stuff, we might as well talk about the glove box, which actually has a button. You can open and close it really quickly. You don't have to faff around in the screen. You've also got these really cool cup holders that you can push down. If you've got really big, you know, those cool Stanley cups, if you've got any of those, you can just push that down and they might be able to fit in there, and you can just press a button there and they pop back up. And then under the armrest here, you've got loads more storage. I mean, you've got plenty of space for sweets and tissues and water and whatnot for longer road trips. That's going to be really handy. And then under here, you've got 2 USB-C ports and a 12-volt socket. The fact that it's down here means that all your cables are kept out of the way, nice and neat and tidy up here. There's also storage space down there for smaller bags or scarves. But one of my favorite bits actually are the seats. Unlike the Tesla Model Y, they have a design, they're not quite as bland, and I think they're much more comfortable as well, especially on the motorway, on those longer journeys. And they're quilted, it's nice stitching, they're also ventilated and heated, and yeah, they just look really sporty. Now remember earlier when I mentioned about this sloping roof line? Well, let's see if I can actually fit in the back quite comfortably. So I'm 6'3", so I tend to struggle in the back of a lot of cars, but in this, I've got loads of space. So I've got plenty of foot room. The seat in front is my driving position, which is the lowest the seat will go. I can move my feet around quite comfortably. Knee room's really good. Headroom is very impressive, even with that panoramic sunroof, which is really nice. You've obviously got a flat floor. There's no transmission tunnel because this car's electric, so even if you're in the middle seat, that's rock solid. That's the central armrest. Plenty of space, lots of headroom as well. I actually feel like I'm in the Pokemobile. I can kind of see out in front of the road ahead. That's quite nice. And then rear seat passengers also get dual zone heated seats, which is nice on the outside, as well as Isofix on the outer 2 seats. And then this middle thing that hurt my back a second ago is the central armrest. So you've got, open that, you've got cup holders there, and then a little bit of storage for some mints or other stuff like that. generally lots of space back here. It feels nice and airy as well, again because that sunroof. You've got 2 pockets there, in fact 3 pockets in the back of the front seats. And if you need a little bit more space, because I am sat fairly upright, you can lean back here without popping your shoulder out and recline the seats. And obviously these two do the same, and I'm even more comfortable. All right, I'm ready to go up to Edinburgh now. Now, usually when there's loads of rear seat space, it really eats into boot space, but is that really the case? You open the boot from down here, it can get a little bit grubby down there because all the road muck sort of gets kicked up, but you know, is what it is. Back here, you've got 520 litres of boot space, which might not sound like a lot because Tesla quotes the Model Y at 854 litres. But obviously that is because Tesla is a bit cheeky, a little bit naughty. They measure up to the top of the roof, line instead of top of the parcel shelf or the rear seats like most car companies do. So, a little bit cheeky there, Tesla. But this car's got a boot floor that moves up and down, so you can put it down a little bit, but you're literally talking inches here. You're probably gonna leave it in this top section here. Lift it up, you've got space for cables. There's 3 of these big BYD bags. You can chuck them in there, don't need to worry about it. Fold it down. And if you've got a airplane size cabin bag here, you can just slide that in. You could probably fit maybe 2 or 3 like that. And then if you flip it around like this, probably fit maybe 4. But if you want much more space, and this car can get over 1,700 litres of space, you need to fold down these rear seats, which can be a little bit of a faff because there's no handle anywhere like in the other cars of this price bracket, so you have to climb in. So I'll come in here, push it a bit. There's only so far I can manage. And then in here as well, come in here. Now, that was a bit of a faff, but once they are down, it's basically flat. And you've got these fabric bits here with Velcro that move up and down. So you've got really flat floor. So you can just slide these items, such as this pelly case, if we fold it down, all the way up like that. If you've got longer items from IKEA, just slide them in. Really quite easy, once it's down. Now, one of the many benefits of an electric car, built from the ground up, is you've got access to a frunk or fruit or front boot, however you want to call it. Unfortunately, it's actually quite tricky to use the front boot in the Sealion 7. Now, I've actually watched a proper BYD UK YouTube video tutorial, and this is what they told me to do. So there's no button on the key or button in the car. You kind of have to lean right under here, like right under here. There's a little flap, press that twice, close that, come around with your case, and then it just lifts up like that. And oh, there's a coffee machine here. Hang on, I've got an idea for that later. Give me a minute. So you've got this pelly case here, you can pop it in, and it fits quite easily. And you can close the thing. That's pretty good. Now, Jamil, do you fancy a coffee? There you go, mate.
Thank you.
Who's next? Anyone?
Now that Jamil the cameraman is suitably fueled up, what's it like to drive?
Well, it's fantastic. The driving position, I think, is really good. You sit fairly low. I like to sit low anyway. I mean, I could always be lower, but in an electric car, you're always going to sit higher up anyway. There's lots of adjustment in the seat though, and the steering wheel. But overall visibility is really good. The A-pillars are quite thick, so it can be a little bit tricky at junctions, but you get used to it quite quickly. And the camera system is so good, it's not really a concern. I mean, same with the rear visibility, actually. It's not the best. The window is quite narrow, but again, the cameras are really good. Efficiency-wise, we've been doing okay, I think. So we've currently got 36.4 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. Now, the conversion is here on screen. That's what I've been getting over the last 40 miles or so. I've not had this car very long yet, but it seems to be relatively efficient. On 68% battery, got 193 miles of range.
The car we're driving is the mid-spec design trim, which gets 283 miles of range because of its slightly more demanding all-wheel drive system and 530 horsepower, which I'll show you later. But if you go for the slightly less powerful comfort trim, you get 300 miles. Then the top excellence model gets the most range at 312 miles.
So yeah, it is slightly behind the Tesla Model Y. Even the higher spec Sealion 7 only gets as much range as the base spec Tesla Model Y. In fact, there's 1 mile difference.
So if it's range you're after, you should probably go for the Tesla. But what about when you're out on the road?
When you're around town and you're driving, to be honest, I found the brakes quite grabby. There's 2 different settings. There's a sports setting and a comfort setting. I've tried it in both and it's still grabby in both, so your passenger might jolt a little bit, but that's around town. When you start to get up to speed on a 60-mile-an-hour country road or just any old A road, it handles it really well. The suspension is really well set up for UK roads. It's not crashy, it handles the potholes well. They know that our roads are absolutely shocking, so they need to make a car that absorbs the bumps well. And these are on those slightly grippier tyres as well, which I think helps a little bit. Overall, it handles really nicely. When we get to a slightly faster corner, we will see if it's still quite stable. And it is. There's not too much body roll. Obviously you get a little bit. It's not quite as firm or as dialed in as the Seal is, for example. But this is a taller car. It's more of an SUV. So I came on the motorway on the way to this shoot, and I did find that there's quite a lot of wind noise from the door mirrors. I did find that that was quite noticeable, especially when your music's quite quiet. So if you just turn that up a bit, maybe you won't notice it as much. Now, speaking of sound, let's talk about the sound system in this car. Now, being the mid-spec car, you get this pretty impressive Dyne audio sound system. There's speakers absolutely everywhere. And even in the boot, there's 2 speakers and a subwoofer. The quality is really good. There's deep bass, you know, especially when you've got your Cardi B on or your Justin Bieber or whatever the kids listen to these days. It sounds really good. Oh, a bit of a bump there. Again, you see the suspension just handles everything so nicely. You're not really being thrown around too much. It does absorb them quite a lot. It's in part to slightly thicker tyres, I think, but also the overall suspension setup. BYD, you've done a good job here.
So the Sealion 7 may handle UK roads nicely, but we thought it would be rude not to conduct a highly scientific 0 to 62 mile/hour sprint using our trusty timing device. Now, BYD seems quite certain it'll hit 62 miles an hour in 4.5 seconds. Let's see about that.
Okay, we got 4.5 seconds to beat. Can we do it? Ooh, we're in sport mode. 4.06. It's absolutely smashed it. Well done.
There you have it then. It looks like BYD might need to change their badges because the Sealion 7 is far quicker than we expected.
So being a modern car in 2025, all the controls are on a screen, as you'd expect. But thankfully BYD knows this, and they know that not everyone likes it too much. So they've got a clever little trick where if you put your 3 fingers on the screen, you can move them sideways to change the fan speed, and then up and down to control the different temperature. Oh, we don't want it too hot. And that's really handy because it means you can keep your eyes on the road and you can just easily swipe without really paying too much attention to the screen. I really like that. And then the steering wheel itself, there's lots of physical buttons, no haptic ones. They're really easy to use, the volume's there. Everything sort of falls really nice to hand.
Now, like most cars these days, you get a selection of drive modes to play with as well. You've already seen us put it in sport mode, but there's also normal, eco, and snow. But we'd suggest just leaving it in normal most of the time anyway.
Let me talk about one of my favorite buttons in this car, and it's the little Regen button down here. Unfortunately, there are no paddles behind the wheel, so you can't control the Regen that way, which is a bit of a shame. But you've got this little switch down here that goes between standard and high. That's useful, but the Regen itself isn't actually very good. I'm on the highest setting right now. I lift my foot off the accelerator. It doesn't really feel like it's doing very much compared to other one-pedal driving systems you get, like the Hyundai Ioniq 6 is one I always go back to because that's always been my favorite. Now, as I said earlier, there isn't much rear visibility, but thankfully, this car's got some pretty good cameras. So if we can squeeze ourselves between these 2 cars here, so you've already see it at the front. If we just pop ourselves in, currently just using the cameras, it's got lovely 360-degree cameras, and yeah, slot yourselves right in. While we're here, we can have a little play around. So it's got 2D as well. Look at that. It's even got the right color of the car. That's very rare. So I'm a big fan of that. It's got so many different angles to play with, so there is no excuse to be bad at parking. And you can see under the car to make sure you're not going to curb anything. Perfect for curbs and maybe a cat. Now, I mentioned fuel efficiency because that is a running cost you have to consider with an electric car, but that's not the only one you need to consider. There's also servicing. Now, servicing an EV isn't as straightforward as servicing a petrol or a diesel car. In fact, it's a bit more complex, and a lot of garages won't even service an electric car. But we now offer servicing at Cinch, which means you can drop your car off with one of our EV technicians at one of our selected stores, and they'll service it for you. If you want to find out more about booking in an EV service with Cinch, check out the link in the description. So yes, the Sealion 7 is a fantastic car. It's comfortable, it's practical, it's got loads of tech, and it's great to drive. But there are still 2 key areas the Tesla pips it in. First is range at almost 400 miles, and then there's a supercharger network, which is basically unrivaled. For now, because BYD should be bringing out some faster chargers very soon. And if you want to see some really fast electric cars, check out our Hyundai Ioniq 5N video and our Abarth 600e review.